Good morning. Shantideva, in his Bodhicharya Avadara, says, life is short. And there are too many things to know in one's life. And we do not know the actual span of our life, how long we are going to live. So therefore, get only those that is really necessary and important. This is a very powerful teaching and advice. Life is short. And there are too many things to know. Not only life is short, but we are not sure how long we are going to live. Like if we meditate on each of these lines, it is like extremely powerful and transformative. Therefore, he concludes by saying, therefore, get only those or do only those which you think is really important. So, we need to make a decision by repeatedly reciting these words. The life is short, there are too many things to know. We do not know how long we are going to live. Therefore, take only those that you really need. Especially in today's world, we proudly call our age as the age of information. And we are bombarded by all types of information. Necessary, not necessary, so many things. And you now, you don't have to run after the mails run after you. It is in your own, everything is in your room. You are hooked to the rest of the world through website, internet, Facebook, Twitter, and so on. And if you keep on seeing what is there in your website, in the internet, in the Facebook, in the Twitter, that itself is extremely time consuming. So how much time we should spend in these things? Or even otherwise, to many of the other distractions that we encounter in our daily life, how much time we should spend. It is a very important point to think about and make decisions. We already said several times that human life is precious. So when we say life is short, we are not only saying any other kind of life which is short, we are saying this precious human life is short. And this precious human life, we don't know when we are going to die. So this being the case, it's important to realize this extremely difficult to obtain opportunity that you have obtained today in the form of a human being. And therefore it is extremely important to seize the opportunity and to take the best advantage of that given opportunity, which only human beings can do, not other species of birds and animals do. Then you can call yourself Purush. The Hindi word for a human being or a person is Purush, which means somebody who has the capacity. Capacity here primarily refers to not any kind of capacity, but it refers to the intellectual capacity. The capacity to judge between what is right and what is wrong. In Tibetan we call it Kivu or Nyundin, one who has the power to do the right thing, to discriminate what is right, what is wrong, and give up what is wrong and take up what is right. So if you do that, then you are fulfilling the meaning of human life. And I believe that this English word, human being, the word human, also has a connotation that's related to values. So human being, somebody who pays heed to the important values that must be adopted. So this is the time to fulfill the Purush Arth, the meaning of a human being. So much of the information that we are getting today are junk information. And the Buddha said, don't make your mind a dustbin. If you put everything, relevant, irrelevant, especially the irrelevant things, you are putting junk in your mind. So, if you love yourself, if you take care of yourself, then don't put junk in your brain. That's what the Buddha is saying. So we don't need all types of information. We need those information which transforms us to the positive side, which makes us color our human emotion, which energizes us, and which makes us get up, go and do things for others, which makes your inner engine move and start doing something. Buddhism is not about daydreaming. I must point out this. Buddhism is not about daydreaming. Okay, you pray that one day I will become Buddha, and pray that one day I will achieve Nirvana. You think about all those good things. Possibly you can achieve something in the distant past. So you have those visions, some kind of vision, some kind of daydreaming. But if you don't do anything right now, if you don't start moving, then your vision will become nightmare. A vision without action normally leads to a nightmare. Daydreaming leads to nightmare. Just daydreaming without action leads to a failure. Interesting research has been done on this. Scientific research has been done on this. A number of students were cautioned what they plan to do after they finish their university. And then many of these students came up with, as I was saying, many of this daydreaming. But they did not work to achieve those daydreaming, to fulfill those objectives. Then after 2-3 years, when they finished their university, then the same researchers, when approached these students, asked the questions. Did you achieve what you were aspiring to achieve when you were in the university? They found that most of them still are unable to achieve much. And those people who are more pragmatic, who start doing things, they get success. So in the Buddhist fold also we have a tinge of that tendency of talking good things, praying, and doing nothing. That's why when you do nothing, the society collapses, the family collapses. Your own success will not be there. You can take the situation of Tibet as a case in point. So it's important to not only aspire for those good things, but to start living. That's why people say, start living, stop talking. Start living. Especially in today's time, especially for the Tibetans, I think it's important. Start doing things. Start doing things. The wish to change is there in the mind of everybody. With the start of every new year, there may be millions of people who want to bring about some change. Be it reduction of their weight, be it getting married, be it getting good job, be it improving their figure. People have 100,000 expectations to become better, to become different, and to change. But then people don't work. So they are unable to change. So one thing that we all need to realize is you are happy thinking about what you think you can do. You think you achieved something by thinking what you can do, but people will judge you, not what you think you can do, but what you have done. What you have done. So therefore, this part of the practice, not necessarily profound practice, but even the rudimentary, very minor, small, seemingly less important practices, we need to start doing those things. Then we can shine out. Then we can really be happier, successful. So therefore, in the next verse, protecting resources, verse number 14, Shantideva says, start with positive activities. Be moderate in everything. When based on such practices, it will not be difficult for that person to protect the resources. In the very beginning, when you accumulate and protect resources, it is important to ensure that your actions are not contaminated by evil and harmful ways, and that your accumulation and protection become a contributing factor for wholesome actions. When you and others use these resources, you should do so with contentment and moderation. So he says, start with positive activities in terms of protecting your wealth, in terms of protecting your resources. Start with positive activities. That means whether it is your accumulating wealth and resources, or protecting your wealth and resources, in all this process, you should see carefully whether you are doing it in the right way or in the wrong way. So when dealing with your accumulation of wealth and resources, right from the beginning, that's what he's saying, right from the beginning, make sure that your process of accumulating wealth and resources are in a good way, in an uncontaminated way, so that there is no malpractices, no corruption, no exploitation. In Buddhism, what is known as right livelihood. So it's very important. Make sure whatever, be it your physical well-being, your health, your mental well-being, your accumulation of name and fame and resources, whatever it is, make sure that you have earned all this in a correct way. Then that wealth, the resources you accumulated is real wealth. Because one, you have accumulated this wealth in the right way. Second, as much as possible, you will use it for the benefit of many others, not just for yourself. Now today in the world, how much wealth is wasted, how much resources are wasted because of focusing just only on the needs of few people or one person, you see. Millions are dying without having proper food, without having proper clothing, but there are few hundreds who are rolling in wealth, who are just wasting the wealth. I don't remember the percentage. If you look at the percentage of the wealth of the world, a big major part is used by only small population of the world, the so-called rich people. This is totally unfair and also not good for them. So start with positive activities. Be moderate in everything. Your accumulating wealth or resources should not be seen as the end of everything. It's only another means to peace and happiness. So there should be moderation in terms of your accumulation of wealth. There should be moderation in terms of the way you eat your food. Even if you are rich, if there is no moderation, then your consumption of the resources and wealth at the end of the day kills you. There are so many examples because of having no moderation. Once when I was translating for His Holiness, so in between the office hours, sometimes I used to, for socializing, I come at the crossroad just near the Institute of Buddhist Dialectics. I come there. So I remember this very skinny young Indian boy who was selling this golgappa. So I always go there and tease him. He was a very skinny little child. So I used to tease him by saying, "Are kya ho gaya itna patla dubla?" I used to tease him by saying, "How come you are such a thin and skinny?" And the answer he gave was amazing. He said, "Guruji, पतले होने से आदमी बीमार नहीं होता है, ज़्यादा खाने से आदमी बीमार होता है." He said, most of the sicknesses you don't get because you are skinny or thin, but you get when you eat too much, when you become fat. See, it's a small boy. See? So much of the sickness that we get today is overeating or eating the wrong thing at the wrong time. You see, the seasons change. There are different foods suitable to different seasons. You see, sometimes we know that a particular food is harming us. Still, stupid as we are, we keep on eating those things, saying that, "Oh, my tongue likes it." So actually, we are committing suicide. It's a kind of suicide. So in a way, what the Buddha is teaching is, he's asking us, don't commit suicide. The Buddha says, don't cultivate all these negative emotions. We continue to cultivate it and we suffer. So that's why it is a kind of self-invited suffering. We can do away with those things. So that's why much is in your hand, in our hand. Not in the hands of others. You can make your life happy, healthy, and even wealthy if you lead the right way of life. If you lead the wrong way of life, physically, mentally, in terms of wealth, economically, you will have a lot of problems and difficulties. Like look at those countries that are constantly fighting, you see, because of the wrong leader, because of lack of mental health, they engage in all those killing, fighting. As a result, people suffer. How can they have physical health? How can they make economical development? You see, these are all extremely clear. So many examples are there. So have moderation in everything. In the true sense of the term, what we call as rich person actually is one who has contentment. A rich person is not those who have a lot of wealth around them, because they may still be hungry. They may have hundreds of servants, they may have many cars and many nice buildings and so forth, but still they are hungry. Mentally they are hungry. They are not rich in the true sense of the term. So those who are contented, That means at the doorstep of somebody who is contented, who has contentment, then the rich people, in the true sense of the term, is living there, sleeping there, enjoying there. You see? And then if you look at the reality of life, as we discussed this earlier also, what did we bring when we came into this world? Kya leke aaya tha? What did we bring when we came into this world? Nothing. Just this body, nothing. But when we leave this world, this body also we have to leave behind. So what goes to the next world is your consciousness, your mind. So if you had lived a life where you have made your mind habituated with positive ways of thinking, then you will fare well. You will be successful in many lives to come. That's why we need all these spiritual practices. Otherwise you can't take any of these things. So therefore, when you live in this life, live in such a way that all the developments and progresses that you do are not aimed towards your fame, your glory, but towards the nourishment, sustenance, and development of the rest of the people, the society. You see, like for example here, I work here as a director for a few years. So if I work here thinking that, oh, if I construct this, do this, then this, people will say, oh, Geshe Lhakdor made a lot of progress. I mean, people have right to say those things, but if my motivation and aim is that, I'm wrong, completely wrong. Because as I said earlier, how long I'm going to live here, you see? And these things doesn't even belong to me, you see? But but instead, if I do it with the realization that I may not be here for a long time, I'm not saying that I'm going to die soon, but even if I don't die, I may not be able to continue here for many years, you see. Things change. But that doesn't matter, because this institution has to survive. And people who come to attend classes here will continue. So many people, not only in this life, many lives, if we establish something good for the posterity, as we say today. With that aim you make progress, you make development. Then that is the right thing, the right way of doing things, you see. Then you see the objective clearly in the right way. See? And what you do if just for yourself will not last long, especially the material accumulations. So therefore, start with positive activities. Be moderate in everything. Be moderate in everything. When based on such training, such practices, then it will not be difficult for you to protect your wealth or your resources. You see? Imagine, if we think about the protecting the resources of this world, if people just implement these two things, make sure that how you come up with your resources are pure, uncontaminated, and if there's moderation, you see. There's no moderation. If you just go down and visit big cities, you know, it's awful, really awful. People are so totally unconcerned about what they are doing to the society, what they are doing to the country, what they are doing to the rest of the world, you see. I frequently pass through Delhi. So when you go to the marketplace, especially in the evening, many rich people, they come with their fancy cars. There is no proper parking place, you know, so much rush, difficult to move around. And they look like educated, you know, well dressed and speaking fluent English. Unfortunately, that is the sign of educated person. If you speak English, it has become a fashion, unfortunately. Anyway, so they are there, they buy all sort of things and they eat and just throw everything like this. Imagine, just eat. The seemingly educated people, they just eat whatever. They just throw it like this. So, I mean, this is Not just India, everywhere I think, many places it's happening like this. It's a shame, you see. So this kind of mentality we need to change, you see. We need to change. Then protecting positive deeds. The next verse is protecting positive deeds. Protecting resources and wealth is important, but what is even more important is protecting positive deeds. By giving up craving for fruits for oneself, good deeds will always be protected. That's what we have discussed already. Don't engage in fruitless activities. You remember? We read that line. Don't engage in fruitless activities. So fruitless activities are those activities which you do just for your egoistic fulfillment and which you don't do for benefiting others. So therefore, by giving up craving for fruits for oneself, now this is not to say that you should not do anything for yourself. Yes, you should do things for yourself. But what the text is saying is, don't just do things only for yourself without having any intention to benefit others. That is wrong. But it's not saying that you cannot work for yourself. Of course, you have to work for yourself. By giving up craving for fruits, and craving, this word, craving, is a negative emotion. Craving is like drinking salty water. The more you drink, the more you become thirsty. You see? So craving is a heightened form of attachment. First you have attachment to an object. You taste it. Then you crave, you see? You're already in a much more, risky level. So by giving up craving for fruits for oneself, that means whether you crave or not, if you do something good, the fruits will be there. So you don't have to worry that if you don't crave. For example, if I do something honestly, something good, I don't have to expect that people should say something good to me, or I should get a good job, things like that. If you are capable, if you are efficient, if you have done the right thing, the fruit will be yours. In Bhagavad Gita also, there is a line which says, do the good thing and leave the result to the God, meaning don't worry about the result, you see. Don't worry about the result. If you worry about the result, then that's already a problem, you see. You expect something to come back. And when it's not forthcoming, then you develop negative emotions again. I did this to him, he did not do anything for me, you see. So that's wrong motivation. As I said right in the beginning, that when it comes to doing something good to others, do it because it is something that must be done, just as you would do it to yourself. You do so many things to yourself, but you never expect, thank you or something in return, you see. Because that is something that must be done, so do it, okay? Without expecting anything. Now, you're not expecting anything doesn't mean you will not get anything. In the very beginning, if you accumulate resources just for yourself, so this verse is also linked to the previous verse. In the very beginning, if you accumulate resources just for yourself, or simply to achieve a higher rebirth. So craving here means, number one, craving just for yourself. Secondly, craving to achieve even the highest form of liberation or nirvana just for yourself. If you accumulate resources just for yourself, or simply to achieve a higher rebirth, that of a human life of a human being, such as that of a human being or a god, or even nirvana just for yourself, then the efficacy of such good deeds will be weak. Instead, you can do a good thing and aim it to achieve enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings. Depending upon how you dedicate, what is your motivation, the fruit will be different, you see. You are doing the same thing, but depending upon how you are dedicating it, what is your motivation, there will be huge differences in terms of what you get. So right from the beginning, develop that stronger motivation. Therefore, it should be accumulated with the intention of benefiting others. So this text is a text on Bodhisattva precepts. So the whole focus will be how to benefit others, directly, indirectly. So all the good things, all the happinesses, all the peace, all the love, all the compassion that we see in the world are because of people trying to help others, trying to benefit others. All the sufferings, all the tragedies, all the turbulences, all the problems, all the difficulties that we see in the world are because people think just about themselves and forget about the rest of others. And Shantideva talks about this very eloquently in his text, Bodhisattva Way of Life, that all the peace and happiness that you see in this world today are the outcomes of a mind wishing to benefit others. All the sufferings that you see in the world today are the outcome of a mind which craves for personal well-being and happiness alone. And then he summarizes that point by saying, there's no need for me to elaborate this point. Just compare yourself with the Buddha. Where are you today and where is Buddha today? And in our ordinary level, in our case, for life after life, our main practice was self-cherishing attitude, always thinking about I, me and mine. So life after life, we practiced this self-cherishing attitude. As a result, we are here where we are today. In the case of the Buddha, instead of that self-cherishing attitude, he cultivated this mind of bodhicitta, and he practiced the mind cherishing the well-being of others. And therefore, today, just by the name of the Buddha, millions of people get benefit. Today in the world, there are more than nearly 500 million Buddhists. Nearly 475 to 500 million people are there. And even in the case of many others who may not call themselves as a Buddhist, but they see Buddha as an embodiment of compassion. Great thinkers like Bertrand Russell, Einstein, all of them have praised the Buddha of his wisdom and of his compassion for suffering sentient beings. So the most important quality out of all the qualities, the most important quality is the mind that wishes to benefit others. That is, if you read this text written by the Kinori Lama, Tenzin Gyaltsen, Kunu Lama Tenzin Gyaltsen, I mean, he's all praise. This book is all about praising the bodhicitta. He says, if you are sleeping, think about bodhicitta. If you are walking, think about bodhicitta. If you are eating, think about bodhicitta. If you are in trouble, think about bodhicitta. If you are enjoying, think about bodhicitta. For this life, think about bodhicitta. For the future lives, think about bodhicitta. It's like a panacea, medicine that cures all illnesses. Imagine. The only problem is we are unable to practice it. If you practice even a fraction of that mind, it will be very, very healing. Physically, mentally. You will get protection, you will get friend, you will get teacher, everything is inside. Today, unfortunately, in the world, so many people are living a life that is completely hollow inside. They may have, in terms of material accumulation, they may have everything, but still they feel something is missing, you see. Yeah, of course, you feel something missing because there's nothing inside, you see. So when you have this precious mind of bodhicitta, loving kindness, compassion, you can rest in peace, you can sleep in peace. Fear will not be there, distress will be reduced, you see. All this fear, anxiety, suspicion, of turbulence comes because of constantly worrying about oneself. What will happen to me? What will happen to me tonight? What will happen to me tomorrow? What will happen to me after 10 years, you know? Just me, mine all the time. And now, as I said earlier, scientifically it is proved that those people who make all these self-references, I, me and mine, they are susceptible to all kind of illnesses, including heart attack. But those people who open up and think more about others, that is found to be the most important source for your physical and mental health. It is scientifically proved now. So there's the thing. The bravery comes from there. The strength comes from there. Courage comes from there. Love comes from there. Sense of belonging comes from there. So that's why it's the most important thing. So therefore he is saying that if you concentrate just for yourself, then the efficacy of such good deeds will be weak. Therefore it should be accumulated with the intention of benefiting others. As much as possible, whatever you have, either you share it or at least you use it, thinking that I use it and strengthen myself, empower myself so that I am able to help others. Okay? Therefore it should be accumulated with the intention of benefiting others and to achieve the ultimate state of Buddhahood. That means, this word Buddhahood basically means the highest form of happiness. And right in the beginning, when we started the class, we all agreed that we all want the highest form of happiness. So therefore there is nothing wrong in saying that we want the ultimate state of Buddhahood. It is in this way that right from the start, all good deeds which you accumulate will be empowered. See, use this word, empowered. Otherwise, whatever you do will be weak. You may be making a lot of effort, but you will reach nowhere because the motivation is small. The objective is small. The way you are doing is insufficient. So think big. That's what he's saying. Think big. And there cannot be a bigger thinking than cultivating bodhicitta to benefit all sentient beings. If somebody fights for one's own country and dies, then we call that person as a martyr and hero and so forth, you see. And Buddha lived his life benefiting all sentient beings, not just human beings, all sentient beings. And he taught an art of fighting against the sworn enemy, the negative emotions, with the army and the forces of loving kindness and compassion. You know, there cannot be a greater example than this process of obtaining long-lasting peace and happiness. All the evil forces, they are contained, they are destroyed by the practice of loving kindness. All the friend sentient beings are sustained and looked after by loving kindness. Jude chambe pungi kyonwata, drugun chambe tobi kyonzebi, jawa chambongombu tashi shows. There's a prayer which talks about this. Also, do not have regret, and if you have done something positive, do not declare it. So, number one, doing good things is very difficult. And two, even when we do something good, then we expect something in return, which is not good. Or sometimes we do something good, then after that we regret. That's also possible. For example, if there is an opportunity to get a good salary, and then instead of doing that job, you go to attend His Holiness teaching, where you get the teaching but no salary. Then after that it is possible, oh, I did not get anything from there. You know, because of your wrong motivation, you know, you might think, I did not get anything there, and I also did not get the salary, so I should not have gone there. It's possible, you see. We are all comfort seekers, you know, we are all money seekers. We judge our development, progress, achievement in terms of concrete material benefits, you see. So it is possible. If you do that, then that's a big mistake. So after having done the good thing, instead of regretting, you should rejoice. Rejoice. Every time I use the word rejoice, I feel like singing and dancing, to be honest. Because when you talk about these 7 limb practices, you see, one part of that practice called rejoicing. Somehow I like that word so much. And I've been encouraging others to do that, you see. When you've really done something good, that's the time to rejoice, celebrate, sing, dance, almost something like that, you see. It's important, you see. It is important to recognize the good things as good and be happy. That's what the Bodhisattvas do. That they always rejoice. I am so lucky I found this precious human life. I am so lucky I met His Holiness Dalai Lama and got his teaching. I am so lucky I am able to do all these practices. Every day their mind is filled with happiness and joy. And that joy and happiness will come if you think, if you reflect. Otherwise, you will take it for granted. Maybe admi hai, wo bhi admi hai, this is. You don't care about those things, you see. So once you recognize the importance, this great opportunity that you have, that you will be constantly filled with joy and happiness. And so many reasons to that. And from their joy and happiness, then you are able to develop that calmness of mind, you are able to develop that appreciation of life and the willingness to help others. That must be there. So therefore, having cultivated or done something good, do not regret. Instead, dedicate the fruit of those good things to achieve Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings, and rejoice and appreciate and pray that may I be able to do such wonderful practices for many, many lives to come. So that is why praying is important, you see. Right in the morning, do some prayer. Prayer means developing certain inclination, developing certain sense of direction, your willingness to do something, you know. So prayer opens the door of the day. And if you have done something positive, do not declare it. See, there's another problem. We don't do, having done something good, either we'll regret it, or we'll become too excited about it, taking it as a great, very, very special thing that you have done, and then you will link it to boosting your ego. See, I have attended Kala Chakra how many times? 25 times. See. You may not even know the meaning of the word Kala Chakra, but you will be very fond of declaring it. Oh, I have attended this teaching so many times. You see. Unless there is a special purpose, do not declare your good things. And especially in this line of practice of the mind training, the great Kadamba teachers, they never declared their spiritual achievements. And in fact, in Buddhism it is prohibited to make a show of your, even if you have really those realizations, it should be kept hidden, just like a burning lamp in a pot. If you put a burning lamp in a pot, inside it's really full of light, but you can't see it outside. So do not make a show of your knowledge. Okay? Those who wish to protect their accumulated merit should not have regret towards their good deeds. They should also not display these good deeds to others when there is no genuine or important reason to do so. If there is an important reason, then of course it is important to show it, but otherwise there is no need. For some people, yes, those certain practices which you are doing just to encourage them, that I did this and got this fruit, I think that kind of example may be useful, important. And without such purpose, simply just to glorify yourself, you should not declare them. Because if you do that, this will weaken accumulated merit. Because again, arrogance is coming up. Just as regret can put an end to evil deeds, if you do evil deeds, it's important to regret. that can put an end to the evil deeds. So similarly, if you regret when you've done something good, it can put an end to the good things that you've done. So we must rejoice in our good deeds. But rejoicing does not mean that you should make a show of it, declare them. This will add weight to our good deeds. Those wishing to protect their accumulated merit should always fear material gifts and respect, and always give up conceit. Have faith in the bodhisattvas, give up doubt towards the Dharma. So therefore, if you really want to, number one, accumulate merit, and having accumulated merit, if you really want to protect it, it's important to accumulate and then protect it. You need to do 4 things here. First thing that you need to do is fear material gifts. Fear material gifts. Meaning, do not have too much attachment to material accumulations. Because the whole world is running after material accumulations. Violence, killing, stealing, all kind of things are happening primarily because of desire for material gains. And now, unfortunately, we have reached such a state where people spend their whole life running after material accumulations. And now, unfortunately, everything is for selling and buying. This conception of everything for sale is rampant in today's world. Everything is for sale. I'm saying everything, unfortunately. We can sell because they are buyers. They are buyers because there is attachment, there is craving, there is grasping, there is stupidity, there is ignorance. People do not know what they really need. If you show them something that fancies their senses, they'll buy. That's why the Buddhas, I'm sure the Buddhas, when they see us, they feel so much love and compassion to us, because we are exactly like completely like innocent children. Although we call ourselves grown-up people, very often the Buddha addresses us, my children, my child. Just like small innocent kids, they are confused with building sand castles near the beach, thinking that sand castle that they build is a real castle. One child builds a sand castle. If another comes and destroys that castle, that child will cry like anything, as if a real castle has been destroyed. Because of his immaturity of the mind and innocence, he thinks like that. So similarly, much of the things that we are doing is exactly like building sand castles. And unnecessarily we are crying, we are weeping, we are suffering. So that's why Buddha is saying, look, wake up. Buddha is giving us this call, wake up call. Wake up. Because right now you are sleeping in ignorance. And that's why you are suffering. And much of this suffering is unnecessary suffering. Unnecessary suffering in the sense, because if you develop slightly better wisdom and more insight, then you will see the senseless in many of the things that you are doing, and based on which you are unnecessarily suffering. That's why even some of the thinkers, not necessarily just Buddhist teachers, some of the thinkers, they say that in one's life, around 70% of the sufferings that you thought suffering is not even suffering. It is just your mental creation. Meaning that if you change your attitude a little bit, 70% of suffering of your life will be gone like this. Just changing your attitude. And the Buddhist teachers say the same thing. Like some of the sufferings and troubles you can change but just by turning your neck around, You're having a lot of problems seeing things like that. Just turn your neck around. That suffering will be gone. Things like that, small things like that can change your life. And it is in that context Shantideva made his famous statement saying, if it is something you can change, don't worry because you can change. If it is something you cannot change, no use worrying because by worrying you can't change it. You see, if you adopt that stance, that way of thinking, nothing can bother you. So it's changing your perception. You can make or mar your destiny like that, based on how you think. So fear material gifts. Fear, because much of the problem, attachment, craving, fighting, killing, they all come after greed. So make a distinction between greed and need. We have certain basic needs which must be fulfilled. But your greed can never be fulfilled. It's endless. So fear material gifts. It's not saying that you don't use anything, but when you go after material gifts with greed, with craving, then there starts all the problems and difficulties. Then your life will be, then those craving and greed after material gifts or material things makes you do the running. As I said earlier, we do so much running today. So much running. Everybody says, I'm busy. Everybody says, I'm busy. So if you sit down and say, why are you so busy? What are you doing? Where are you running? Now in big cities there is hardly any sense of day and night. Day and night, I suppose, whether it's created by God or it's a law of nature, I think there is a purpose, you see. People should be sleeping in the night and working in the day. But in big cities there is no sense of that. And from there comes all kind of imbalances, disturbances. So all this running is done because of greed for material accumulation. So you should fear. Instead of being so happy, you should fear. Tsongkhapa, in one of his very famous, Seventh Dalai Lama, he's a very good poet. There, one of his beautiful composition, he says, "Shen la shata tarpan senorji korje, ran la dingme shindu mengombre chebe, legbe chakun repe du ngusundobe, togla mentu hembe nansu de kyowa." So loosely translated, it says something like this: "Shen la shata tarpan senorji korje." The food, the clothing that people give you, that people offer you, are actually almost like part of their flesh and blood. The people who are giving these things to you is almost like part of their flesh and blood. These offerings, especially to the monks, or these offerings, or even gifts. So you must realize this. And without realizing that, if you just take it and use it without thinking, especially when you have no confidence that you can digest those things, if you just jump upon these offerings and things, gifts, and use it without any satisfaction, when you have no confidence that you will be able to digest those things, then he says, this is really exactly like an evil force that is there to decrease all your positive qualities. And then he says, alas, how sad is this state of seeing the poison as a medicine. So many of these things that come from others, don't use them as a medicine that, I got it, I enjoy it. You see, at least do something in return, something useful for others. So fear material gifts and respect. When somebody respects you, puts you in a higher pedestal, that's the time you should be careful. We have many examples like Mao Zedong and so forth, who in the beginning, when they were ordinary person, they had good motivation, wanted to join this class, less struggle, wanted to look after the happiness of the peasants and so forth. But once they, in the height of that power, then they get completely drunk by that madness of power, and then they become a source of death and killing of so many people. 75 million people lost their lives under Mao Zedong's rule. I'm not saying he killed, I said 75 million people lost their life through killing, through persecution, indirect, whatever, direct, indirect, whatever. 75 million, imagine. You can get completely crazy. And that craziness is rampant in today's world also. The crazy leaders, they have the power and they are making ordinary people go to war, kill each other in the name of this, in the name of that. So fear, respect. Always, one of the important Buddhist practices, like we did when we started our class also, we bow down, did some prostration. To our parents also we bow down and respect. So now the younger generation, how much they are doing this, I don't know, but we must do this. Because the very purpose of doing that prostration is to cultivate humility and to reduce conceit and arrogance. If you are arrogant, you will not bow down. Bowing down itself means reducing arrogance and making oneself receptive to higher qualities. That's very, very important. So paying homage is an antidote to arrogance. So therefore, when somebody respects you, again, Shantideva gives a detailed explanation about this in his Bodhicharyavatara, where he says, somebody respects you, do not get puffed up. Do not get inflated thinking that I'm somebody, these people are bowing down to me, I'm really special, something. Don't think like this. Instead you should think, oh, this is a good person. This is a good person. He recognizes good things as good. So focus should be on the others who are doing those good things, not on yourself. You should think, I'm nobody, but still he thinks I have some good qualities, meaning that this person is appreciating good things. It's wonderful. Like that. Fear material gifts and respect. Always give up conceit. If you get conceited, if you get arrogant, inflated, if you become inflated like a balloon, then there's no room for getting higher qualities. So that is the second practice. And the third is have faith in the bodhisattvas. I've explained about this already. And third is give up doubt towards the Dharma. And now you can give up doubt towards the Dharma through knowledge. Through knowledge. If you think more, like for example, now we have been discussing a lot about the importance of love, importance of compassion, importance of bodhicitta and so forth. Now I'm sure you have some idea and sense, yes, these are really good practices. And then especially if you live the practices, if you do the practices, there will be more convincing results. So in this way you will be able to remove doubt towards the Dharma. So the best way of removing the doubt towards Dharma is hearing, thinking, and meditating on the teaching, not just developing blind faith. So having strengthened the good deeds you have accumulated, if you hanker after wealth and fame and become conceited, say normally when we get some wealth, we get conceited. When we get some higher quality, we get conceited. If you have a slightly better look, you get conceited, you see. All this conceit and arrogance comes because you do not know the reality of your life, the meaning of your life. So if you become conceited, the fruit of your good deeds will be postponed. Therefore, by the 4 practices of having no attachment towards wealth and respect, number 1. 2, by always giving up conceit. 3, by respecting bodhisattvas. And 4, by not giving up the sublime dharma, one will be protected from the postponement of fruits. You see? And you should be able to enjoy that fruit as soon as possible. It should not be postponed. Like, if your monthly salary is postponed, you will be very upset. So get upset if there is a likelihood of postponement of fruits of your good deeds. So make sure that the fruits of your good deeds are not postponed. So the first thing you should do when putting an end to your past corrupt moral practices is to purify your body, because when the body is thoroughly purified, it becomes a beneficial wealth. Just as well-cooked, cleaned rice benefits embodied beings or sentient beings. So this verse is primarily talking about cultivating the right motivation, making the right prayer. Right from the beginning, when whatever practices you do or whatever resources you collect, if you cultivate proper motivation and do the right prayer, that this may become a cause to achieve Buddhahood for the benefit of all sentient beings. This may become a cause for the longevity of my life so that I am able to continuously do the practice. This may become a cause for the benefit of all sentient beings. This may become a cause for removing the negative emotions. So with this kind of motivation, if you engage in those practices, then that is called purification. And then your whole life will become a source of sustenance for others. Just like a nicely cleaned, rice. A rice, if you have removed the husk of the rice and cleaned it and nicely cooked, then it will benefit the sentient beings. So like this. Any questions? Let us have some questions today. No questions? Yeah?
Ask.
Yeah.
Just ask.
If we see that we've developed a bad habit with something, bad habits can sometimes be difficult to break. So what is a good method for starting to break a bad habit that we've identified?
Yeah, you are absolutely true. As I said earlier, we are very strongly conditioned by bad habits. In some cases, we are kind of entrenched into that bad habit. So it is difficult to move these bad habits with one go. So that's why the whole process of Buddhist teaching is to gradually help you change. If you look at the titles of some of the text, stages of the spiritual path, Lamrim stages. Stages, Kamal Shila's text is on meditation is called Stages of Meditation. Meaning that you can change if you start practicing slowly and stage by stage. And this is completely in tune with the nature. If you look at the grasses, trees and flowers, how they grow. They don't blossom overnight. Slowly, slowly, step by step, it changes. So therefore, it is important to recognize the fact right from the beginning that you can change if you wish. And that's a good news. That's really good news. If you make a change, you become what you want to become. You become what you want to become. You can change. If you make an effort, you can change. And then second, to see that change, you need to make an effort. You need to start. If you don't start, you will never change. For example, I was thinking about reducing my weight a little bit for my health. Then I thought about what to do. Install a exercise machine or do some prostration. Then I said, okay, prostration is easier. So I bought a wooden plank to do the prostration. And I'm not able to do it, you see. It has been lying there for some time now. So occasionally I do a little bit, and then there's no continuity, you see. So it takes time. But at least it helps you, you see. At least there is something there that reminds you to do that practice. So put a reminder and start doing. And then gradually you will get habituated. And Shantideva says that there is nothing that will not become easy when you get habituated with that. And he gives the example of your sworn enemy. He gives the example of your sworn enemy. Somebody must have been your sworn enemy. And such a terrible enemy that you used to tremble and fear just by hearing his name. And then he says it happened that because of the change of situation, that enemy that you used to fear so much happened to be your next door neighbor. So in the very beginning you're terrified, you don't even dare to look towards that person. Somehow he is now your neighbor. Then with the passage of time, slowly you pull some courage and at least look at his face. He also looks at your face. And then with the change of time, one day you say, good morning. He also says good morning. Then after some time you start talking. And then after some time you start inviting each other to tea, dinner, lunch and so forth. And then gradually you become such a dear, close friend that now you don't even want to remain away from that person for a short time. Your sworn enemy, now you become your bosom friend, you know. So it's all possible. It shows the possibility. Yeah. So, and the most important thing is you need to see, it's not simply changing for the sake of changing, but what is wrong with that bad habit? How much problem it created to you? You need to think about this. If you are able to see the destructiveness of that habit, the ugly side of that habit, then that will help you stay away from that also. Just like making human friendship. If somebody has been cheating you for a long, long time, and you have been realizing those repeated cheatings, then even if that person comes to you with a smile, you know that person, you know, so slowly you distance yourself from that person, you see. So like that, yeah. Okay? Any other questions? She is asking two questions. First is the question of burning incense. In the Buddhist tradition, we burn incense to purify bad smell and things like that. But according to scientists, this is a kind of pollution. And her science teacher also tells her that don't burn the incense inside, you can burn it outside or things like that. So since science and Buddhism are supposed to be compatible, so how can you explain this? I would say that, if you use your common sense, which is better, if you have a smelly room or a room with fragrance or the scents of incense, which one is better? Rua. So in order to remove many of the odors, bad smells, then we can use incense, we can use other forms of fragrance, which is good, because as we read in the text, that you should do all those things which would make others happy and pleased, and not those which would make others unhappy. So that should be the criteria. So instead of keeping the room smelly, if you burn an incense, it gives people like it, it's good fragrance. And then in the case of many of this incense, they've certain medical ingredients which is a little bit contributing towards stress reduction and things like that. So in that case. So to pollution maybe a little bit, contributing a little bit, but not much. Because if you go too much to that, then you cannot even boil water. That's also disturbing the environment. Her second question was, especially she referred to verse number 5 and 6, where the text talks about taking care of your physical and mental health to be able to benefit others. So in this context, how would you explain those Tibetans who self-immolate themselves? What is being explained in the text and how much you are able to practice are two different things. The desired objective, if it is possible to practice, is what is being taught in the text. That you take care of your health, physical health, mental health, protect your life, live long life to be able to benefit others. If you are able to do that, do that. But then how many of us will be able to do that, you see? It is almost like saying, not only those people who self-immolated themselves, but it's almost asking the question to us. Like the text says, do not develop negative emotions. But we are all developing negative emotions. Why? Rwa, nyomo maji lekdo. Rwa, rangso medang itikbu kecha remendo. Nganzo sangmala di thebna la nyomo maji sikdo. Nganzo sangma nyomo chigiwa. Karjin chigo. Rwa, remare. Di ko text hiyewa da nganzo ki tup matup si di kagarwa. Chungna da text hiyewa na shi chitup kuyorwa. Ko samla nan hakudwa. Pena midyosu gyuring se dena pukda pen togorwa. Yena di tup kakurwa. Kunzo di nedan kakur hiwji che. Tende kata gyuje mangu yungurwa.
I think when we talk about the ultimate happiness, I think we are saying that we don't want suffering at all. And I personally think that there should be a balance between happiness and suffering both. Because I think happiness and suffering, they both are interdependent. So when we achieve Buddhahood, I think there is no suffering at all, just happiness. So I think that happiness and suffering are interdependent. So how does it work really, if we achieve?
In the ordinary level, it looks like they're interconnected. Interdependent, I don't know. Interconnected. Connected and dependent, I don't know. They're same. So there is some correlation there. But the thing is, as I said, we all want happiness. We all want the highest, the greatest happiness. That is there in all of us. There's nobody who says, I want suffering. So that's the important thing. There's nobody who says, I want happiness. No suffering. Everybody says, I want happiness. So that clearly shows suffering is something that you do not want, that we do not want. So that way we are also saying that I should be able to achieve a state of happiness and no suffering. That's what we are saying. Now the question is it possible to get that happiness, state of happiness where there's no suffering at all? That is the main question that you are asking. This is a very complex question, difficult question also, because I am not a Buddha, you see. And what we are reading is in accordance with the text. But then one thing that we can at least figure out is that if you make the effort, you can really reduce suffering. That is clear, because much of these sufferings and problems and difficulties, they come because of confusion, because of ignorance, because of negative emotions. The more we reduce these negative emotions, these confusions, ignorances, the more we'll be happier. So it really shows if we make an attempt, we can be happier. That much we can know. So therefore, it is important to realize two things. One is, suffering is not necessary. If it is possible to remove it. Number two, we can make progress all the time. So that is what we need to know. For example, I was reading this text this morning. It says, for example, if you understand the meaning of ignorance, ignorance, as I said earlier, is not just lack of knowledge, but misconception of reality. And it is this misconception of the reality that we get all kinds of turbulences, difficulties and problems and so forth. That's the key. So that is to say that if this misconceptions of reality, ignorance, is not there, there will be no confusions. As a result, there will be no suffering, no problem. That's what the text says. So sufferings and problems that you are experiencing are primarily based on your mental projection. Your mental projection. You perceive certain things in certain ways, and then because of that, you get all kinds of reactions, and as a result, negative emotions. Then in a more interesting way, there is a natural flow of things, cause-effect relationship. Like for example, even if you look at ignorance, which we say is the cause of all the problems, all the difficulties. But if you look carefully at ignorance, ignorance itself does not come with a motivation to say that I will come in his mind and I will harm him, I will make him suffer. Ignorance does not come with that motivation. Similarly, all negative emotions, they don't come with a motivation to destroy you. Like a desire or attachment, they don't come with an motivation thinking, oh, I will arise in the form of attachment in his mind and I will destroy him. That motivation is not there. So what I'm saying is we need to understand this natural flow of law of cause and effect. This natural flow, you see. Like you take the example of a poisonous tree. If you eat that poison from that poisonous tree, it will harm you, it could kill you. But this poisonous tree also does not have a motivation to kill you. So that is the most important part, what the Buddha is saying. He is simply saying that you must understand the law of nature. If you think in this way, you will get this problem. If you think in this way, you will get this benefit, that result. So follow the law of causality, cause-effect relationship. Just as in the external environment, with certain things, certain plants are medicinal, they are useful, certain plants are poisonous, they are harmful. Similarly, within our mind also, Some of them are constructive, some of them are negative. So therefore get rid of the negative ones, cherish and cultivate the positive ones. And that leads to peace and happiness. This is nothing to do with a special kind of invention of the Buddha. He simply kind of discovered what is there in the law of nature. So if you go against this law of nature and try to be extremely intelligent and clever, you will never be able to go against it. Because there's a natural law of functioning things, you know. So I think that's important to understand. Yeah. So our main concern is whether we can reduce the sufferings and problems or not at this stage, and whether we can become better and better. That's the main concern. Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much. See you tomorrow.